Welcome back and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective. Do your customers come back? Think of the brands you know or have worked with, especially now as prescription models continue to evolve and become more prevalent. Think of those brands who've seen customers go out the back door as quickly as they came in the front. For so many, it's become a real growth issue. But lately, what have you done for your customers that you normally wouldn't do? After all, the experience your brand gives has changed during the pandemic. It's focused us to rethink CX and customer service and the things your business needs to keep customers coming back again and again. Shep Hyken is a customer service and experience expert, the Chief Amazement Officer of Shepard Presentations, a New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling author, and member of the National Speakers Association Hall of Fame. And on this episode, we'll discuss customer service, customer experience, moments of magic, measurement, subscriptions, keeping customers coming back again and again, the experience of virtual presentations versus in-person, Pujols versus Musial, Starbucks, Disney, Bonnie Raitt, and a lot more. So let's tune in to a Chief Amazement Officer with your amazing Chief Shark Officer who always delivers a magical experience on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Shep, thank you so much for joining us today on A Shark's Perspective. If you would, tell us a little bit about your background and your career to date.
Wow. Well, I'm a customer service and experience expert. Been doing this for a long time since I had hair, which was back in the 1980s. I am passionate about the idea of driving a great experience. From the very beginning of my career as an entrepreneur, which was at age 12 with the birthday party magic show business, my parents taught me some basics about customer service, show appreciation, ask for feedback, improve the show, which is like process improvement for a company, how to ask for extra business from existing clients. And then, of course, I had regular jobs growing up, but graduated college, saw a couple of motivational speakers. I thought because of this entertainment background, and by the way, I graduated from birthday parties to nightclubs and eventually corporate events. I thought I'm going to write a speech on what I learned and what I learned from other companies too. And that's how it all started. And here we are a few decades later. And been doing it for a while, written a few books, write a lot of articles. What else do you want to know?
That's a little overgeneralized. You've written a New York Times bestseller. I mean, you've written multiple books. Talk about those kind of your babies of your experience.
Yeah, well, the first book was titled Moments of Magic, and I took my speech, which is about how you manage the experience, and you've got three choices. You could have a moment of mediocrity, which is like average. You get a moment of misery, which is bad. It could be a complaint, but often it's just a bad overall experience. Or you can have a moment of magic, anything better than okay. And so I took that speech, I transcribed it, and I wrote my first book. And that book, gosh, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of copies sold over time. It's been around a while. And then wrote another book, The Loyal Customer, which is about this cab driver. And then The Cult of the Customer, which Wiley did, gosh, a long time ago. And then we just did a reboot on that. This year, we released it, the new edition. We got rid of all the old stats, put in some new ones, even got rid of a guy that we use as a great example. He's now in jail. We don't want to bring him up. By the way, I always have to put this disclaimer in all my books. I'm going to be sharing these examples from companies that may not be here by the time you read this book. And so I didn't even think about it. And by the way, the people that I mentioned, they might go to jail. So please don't.
Well, that's a perfect transition, oddly enough. But, most people, I think today, I hope anyway, thankfully, are looking at experience and level of service under a different prism, like they're looking at everything else differently about their business. But, so much of it for so many years is just, unfortunately, has been baked in to where people got numb to bad experiences with brands. And we try to tell them all the best things to do. I mean, you're a noted expert in this field. But 2020 has opened up such an amazing opportunity to implement change. For those ones that really invested heavily in experience and service, where are you starting to see them reaping the benefits of that reward?
Sure. The first thing is I believe the pandemic or any crisis, economic, 9/11 was the same thing, the recession in 2008, 9, and here we are in the 2020 with this pandemic. I think that it puts a magnifying glass on companies and it magnifies the good and the bad. The bad become real obvious and the good, they just seem to be, like even bigger and better. They know what to do, and they step up. The companies that seem to be most successful during these times are the ones that aren't afraid to properly invest or keep spending in the places they need to keep spending. I'll give you an example of the opposite. A friend of mine has several hotels. His occupancy rates went from high 80% down to under 20%. So obviously he had to start cutting. And one of the areas he cut, probably more than he should have, was the housekeeping area. And I said to him, in good times or bad, a dirty room is a dirty room. They're never coming back. Don't cut short where it's going to be obvious. And when times are tough, I suggest to my clients, if you're going to cut, don't let the customer see where you cut. Find other ways to save money. And there are plenty of ways that you can cut here and there without even touching the experience. So that's number one. Number two, you see companies becoming aggressive. And I say in aggressive in a good way. In other words, they see there's this hole that opened up for marketing and advertising dollars, for example. I talk, one of my clients is a major TV network, and we talk specifically about the people they're laying off or not laying off because of their ability to fill airtime. Well, guess what? If businesses are shutting down, they're not going to advertise. But that doesn't mean they can't still be out there in the marketplace somehow, some way. Mm-hmm. I just did an article last week in Forbes. I talked about a restaurateur, very, very high-end restaurateur in New York City, Danielle Ballud. And Danielle went from this fancy high-end restaurant where it's elegant, to saying, okay, well, first of all, had to shut down altogether because of COVID-19. Sure. So instead of disappearing off the face of the earth, he goes and he starts cooking meals for the poor. He moves from cooking meals for the elite rich to the ultra poor and meals, and he helps them. And by the way, the press rolls in on this. You've got pictures of him working in these places. And you know what else he's doing? He's getting people to either volunteer, or people that have lost their jobs, he's employing them to come and help. So he's staying in front of the public. What a great example. Didn't advertise his business, but he made a mark for himself. He had to, I don't like using the word pivot anymore. I'm guilty of using the word pivot early on in the pandemic. When you pivot, you turn your back on something. When you're flexible, you're willing to look around, right? And see what's there without losing sight of what's behind you. So one of the things he did was he moved his restaurant outside. He moved the elegance of inside into the raw, outdoor, serve you on the street environment, okay? That's another thing. Another thing he did, he considered every option. He, by the way, it was really cool. Curbside service in his world means chauffeur-driven limousines and Bentleys and Rolls Royces pull up, and the customers sit in the back and they get their food brought to them and they eat it, and then they expect it to be taken away. They don't go home; they eat it right there. It's kind of like put the tray on the table or on the window. But he's even considering a food truck. You know, he can't cook everything on a food truck, but he can cook what travels well and travel around. And so here's the thought process here. I don't care what business you're in. And I ended the article by saying, this is a metaphor for any business. Take a look at what he did and just apply the example without the restaurant part of it to your business.
What do you think contributes, though, to that lack of innovation beforehand? What's the hurdle if it's not necessarily cost?
Fear.
Fear?
Fear. And I'll blame it on leadership, because they don't have the foresight to see what could happen if they spend more, change it up, or cut. And by the way, I'm okay with cutting if you're cutting in the right place for the right time. And I will also say, and this is an interesting way of putting it, somebody once said, religion is for those that can afford it. You know what? A successful company becomes sometimes unsuccessful by getting stuck in a rut, by being stuck where they've always been and not seeing forward, or getting hit, hitting a brick wall like this pandemic caused. But good leadership can see what's on the other side of that wall. They're I would say, conservatively optimistic, or realistically optimistic is the way I like to put it. We're going to be back to days of normalcy. None of this isn't a new normal. This is so freaking abnormal. It's crazy. Don't ever say, oh, it's always going to be this way, and sulk and, Remember Eeyore from Winnie the Pooh?
Oh yeah.
Oh no. I mean,
Okay. Yeah.
oh boy, so we're gonna get through this. And what's really cool is technology and innovation didn't come about as a result of this. People, companies started to adopt and adapt to what was already there. And we've been pushed 3 to 5 years into the future, because we would be in many of the places we are today about 3 to 5 years from now, whether the pandemic hit us or not. And I mean, by the way, this happened 25 years ago. There was no Zoom 25 years. There was no video conferencing. There might have been about 25 years. I remember, and I believe it was maybe in the late 1980s, I was hired by by Southwestern Bell and AT&T to do a presentation on video conferencing. And so I don't know if you know this. I know, they call you Shark, right?
Mm-hmm.
My nickname growing up was the Shark.
Oh, how
There were
funny.
2 nicknames I had, the Shark and Magic Man. The Shark because I was a card trick guy, and they call me a card shark, okay?
Okay.
And that tied into Magic Man. So I was hired to, you knew I did the magic, but I was hired to do a presentation, and I did a magic show with a girl in a completely different city, where she and I interacted for the audience that was right in front of me, and they watched video conferencing taking place. And people were like with their jaws open. She's really like in Las Vegas? Yeah, I was wherever I was, and she was based in Las Vegas. And it blew them away. Well, today it's like, come on, let's go have a Zoom call.
Exactly.
Zoom is like Kleenex. It could
Right,
be Zoom. It could be GoToMeeting. It could be any technology. But it's like, pass me a Kleenex. FedEx this for me, when it's really UPS it. They mean overnight it. So that's what we have today. We are so fortunate. And if 25 years from now it happens again, I bet we have a new set of tools that will make us just as fortunate. So anyway, I know I'm rambling a little bit here.
No, I agree with all that. And I, just now thinking, because I tend to gripe about this all the time when I think of what we've had to endure, which is watch Netflix and TikToks while our forefathers, my dad was in a World War.
I know.
I had family that was in World Wars in Korea and Vietnam, and yet I was forced to watch TikTok and Netflix and gripe about it on Twitter. It's a little insane, but I was going to tell you, I'm absolutely glad to hear somebody that's an expert like you talk about fear, because one of the chapters I'm writing in my book is about, and I swim with sharks. That's why I got the nickname Shark. I've been swimming with them since I was a little kid. And one of the things that I've really stayed with, because of quite a few former bosses as well, is the fear that they have in making any kind of change. And I think that's so hard for people to discuss or admit or anything else. And it's focused a lot on that service delivery and how it really perfects performance with companies as well.
Yeah. So if you really care about a company, you really care about your customer, if you really care about your customer, you will do things that you might not normally do in normal times. For example, when I will admit to, like, I was hit with the brick wall. I knew it was coming. A friend of mine, I sat next to him on an airplane in late January, and he says, "Oh, wait till you see what happens. This is like nothing you've ever seen." By mid-February, nobody had, it was March 13th when we officially went into the pandemic. But I said, this is bad. I went to a conference in Houston with a bunch of professional speakers. It was the weekend. Like sometime around February 29th or 28th, 29th. I don't know if it was a leap year or not. March 30th or March 1st rolled around. And I said on Friday, I'll bet starting next month, bookings start to cancel. Well, on Saturday night, I get a call from a client who I'm going to leave Houston to go to Miami to speak to their event. At their event, they said, Saturday night, we've canceled. We're telling everybody, don't fly out tomorrow. What? By Monday, a few more had canceled. By the end of the week, I had 7 cancellations. By the end of the next week or week after that, everything in my book was gone. So I sat there blown away thinking, okay, there goes like my year. What's going to happen? We've only had 2 months of income, so to speak. And I really went into deep introspective. And I also watched what my colleagues were doing. I think this is a great time. Leaders need to see what everyone else is doing. Not just your direct competition,
Absolutely.
but I mean, what's the industry doing? What's happening? And I took notes, and then it took about 2 weeks. I started to move, and I went and moved very fast. For my business, it was moving to virtual presentations. I had a studio. I've been doing virtual presentations for years, maybe 15 a year. Well, now I'm going to do 15 a month. But here's what I did for my clients. I called them all up because they were scared to death. And I said, what can I do to support you? The clock is not running, meaning I'm not going to charge them. I will, at no charge, do a presentation for your people if you want me to. I'll talk about the way I see things happening, how we have to handle our customers, and how we need to be thinking. And again, if you like my perspective, I'll send you the outline of the speech, but I'm doing this for all of my clients at no charge. I want to show them that I want to care, but I want to be relevant to them when there's no need to be relevant to them. They may need it, but I didn't have to do this. It was just because I wanted to. And you know what? It kept me busy. It kept me focused. It kept me optimistic. And it kept me engaged with all the people that I love to work with.
Real quick comment. I really like your speaker demo reel on your site, and it brought up something that I look at quite a lot with businesses. A lot of people do sort of a same, rinse, wash, repeat strategy, if you will. It sort of limits their thinking. But you talk about in that demo reel and in some of your speeches that you're not just competing with other people, as you just mentioned, in your industry. When you think about customer service and customer experience, kind of elaborate, if you will, what you mean by that. I mean, I do this even like just as a joke when I talk about other podcasts. People, if you're Bob's Accounting Shop, you're not competing with H&R Block's Accounting Shop podcast. You're competing with the Joe Rogan Experience. And the same thing applies with customer service and customer learning. I know everybody always immediately goes to what their competitors are doing at, say, Marriott versus Hilton, but that they may be comparing that to Disney or Amazon or anything else. I know you speak about this much better than I do, so please kind of unpack what I just said.
Sure. And I think you bring up a really good point. Just take a look at Marriott and Hilton, direct competitors, but they're constantly pushing the envelope. They're not just trying to create a better hotel experience. They're trying to compete and create with what the customer's idea of an experience is. So many years ago, there was something I refer to as the amenity wars. And some really smart hotelier said, you know what? I bet people would like a mint on their pillow before they go to bed. Okay. And so somebody first, who I don't know who it was, put a mint on a pillow, and then a hotel across the street or down the road found out about it and said, well, we can do that. And they put their mint on the pillow. Then somebody said, I bet they'd like newspapers at their doorstep, right? And then another hotel did it. And before you know it, all these amenities become commonplace. So now what happens is you take a look, and I believe it was, I don't want to be wrong, it could have been Hilton or it could have been Marriott, one of the Starwoods. Somebody came up with keyless entry, okay, using your cell phone. Somebody came up with check-in where you bypass the front desk. So what were they doing? They were looking at all these technologies that are available to any company and saying, you know what can we do to enhance the experience we have inside our own business? Customers don't compare you to a direct competitor anymore. They compare you to the best service they've ever had. And if I ask you, what's the best favorite company that you think is the easiest company to do business with, you're probably going to tell me what 99% of the people
probably say Disney.
Well, Disney's one of your favorite companies to go to, but who's the easiest?
Oh, Amazon, absolutely.
You do business with
Amazon.
Yeah, Amazon, right. So, by the way, Disney sets the bar pretty high. You go to Disney and you experience that, and you go,
exactly.
Why can't all the hotels be like this? Okay, right? You go to Amazon, and they don't even create a human-to-human experience. They actually have a pretty good customer support department if you need it. But you can't call them. Do you know what they do? They call you. So you go online and you try to figure it out yourself, and they give you every tool to do that. But the backstop is, do you want us to call you? And you go, yeah, put in your phone number. And about the time you push send, that phone rings. Well, it's Amazon. And it takes sometimes maybe 5-10 seconds for somebody to call them on and say, hey, it's Amazon. What do you need? But this is what's cool, is that they've created this great system. You usually don't need the support. Well, they've created what some people refer to as the now economy. I want it now. Well, really, I'm going to get it in 2 hours or less.
Right.
Now, an hour or less, right? Yeah. I want it by tomorrow. When I was a kid, I would go on and I would, well, even in the beginning of my speaking career, as I'm traveling around, there was this company called Kluge, Kluge. They sold luggage. Now, the type of luggage they sold was like a shoulder bag where you can put your suits. They folded in half. It kept things from wrinkling, had the compartment for shoes, your toiletries, etc., shirts. And this was an amazing piece of luggage with like 94 pockets. And they said, unbelievably fast delivery, 4 to 6 weeks. And you know what? It comes in 3 weeks.
Exactly.
And you go, wow, these guys are amazing. Okay. Well, you know what's happened since then. I mean, now we get it in 1 hour, and so we've created this expectation, the now expectation, the impatient expectation, where customers don't have tolerance for waiting around anymore. If they call you and you put them on hold for 10 minutes, they're not happy. Think about it. There needs to be a technology built in, and by the way, it's available and it's not expensive, that says your hold time is 10 minutes or 30 minutes, and you don't have to wait. If you want to wait, fine. But if you want to, type in your number, we'll call you back so you can go do something else. Or give us another time, type that time in on the keypad, and we'll call you back at that time. There's no reason any company can't do that. Why my cable TV provider didn't have that available to me, and after COVID-19 hits and I'm struggling because my internet's got problems, because everybody in the world is using up bandwidth in the area, my hold time was so long that the customer support department closed and said,
I've had that happen before. Yeah.
An hour and a half.
Must be the same cable
crazy.
Company.
So anyway, hopefully they've got that fixed, because that's just not cool.
Well, one of the things, as somebody who's driven a lot of performance in my career with driving a lot of new customers as well, I know very often we think of customer service and customer experience within current customers and how to keep them, amaze them, retain them. But as a marketer, it's such an important tool to be able, for Amazon or Disney or for anybody, to be able to just sell service and experience. And it pays itself off in so many different ways. And I'm kind of, exactly. So I'd love for you to kind of elaborate on that as to how powerful a tool you've seen it become. Because look, if you were going to start a company today, you could do it with a new widget and spend, I'm a big fan of advertising. You can spend tens of millions, like most people, advertising to push a widget. But what will push itself is experience.
Yeah, and you push it because other people will talk about you. There's an old Bonnie Raitt song. If you know who Bonnie Raitt is. Let's give you something to talk about. Yeah. Talk about love, love, love. But no, talk about experience, experience, experience. Morton's, the steakhouse, they're all over the world, right? Now they're owned by Landry's. But back in the day when there was, Arnie Morton started Morton Steakhouse, and they never advertised on radio and TV and traditional media advertising or the newspaper. You know what they did? I'm friends with Tom Baldwin, the former CEO of Morton's, and he says, our advertising is our customer. Our marketing department are the people who make the steaks, serve the steaks. Yeah. I metaphorically, whatever you're ordering, and it's the employees are doing such a good job that they get those guests to go out and come back again and bring their friends. That's how they market and advertise. And I find that to just be, and by the way, they do use free social media, of course, and they have somebody that manages that, but they don't do the traditional advertising because they don't have to. They figured out a way to give people something to talk about. And I think that's a really good place. You should promote properly. I'm not saying you shouldn't do any of the other traditional media or even some of the alternative channels of media to market yourself. But at the end of the day, if you're really good at marketing and you don't create the experience, customers not going to come back anyway. You talk about a book that you're writing. I'll give you a hint about the book I'm writing. It'll be out next September. It's basically almost ready to go to final edits right now, but it's about getting customers to come back again and again. And that's all it is, because at the end of it all, that's the measurement that matters. You can measure customer satisfaction, the willingness to promote the NPS score, net promoter score, where, would you be willing to recommend us? Those are great as far as scales of 1 to 10 or 0 to 10 or whatever. But you want to know what I want to measure? Behavior. Does the customer come back? And then I want to find out why they're coming back. Why are they a repeat customer? Are they a repeat customer because we're just convenient? We should talk about convenience in a moment. Or are they a repeat customer because they love us and they're loyal to us? There's a big difference. By the way, I'll take either one, but the indifferent customer that comes back has really a minimal impact on the bottom line compared to the loyal customer that comes back. I just, for my show, Amazing Business Radio, interviewed a gentleman from Gallup, and I can't wait to buy these books that I don't have in my library. One of them is called Human Sigma. You know, it's like Six Sigma is about eliminating errors. Human Sigma is the discrepancy between the relationship that you could have with a brand and the one you do have. And you want to get the best connection, because that emotional connection will drive more dollars per interaction. By the way, stay away from that word transaction unless you don't plan on seeing that customer again. An interaction is about an ongoing series of things. So a couple of things. I know I want to talk about convenience in a moment because it kind of tied to something we talked about earlier. But when it comes to loyalty, it's not about a lifetime. I'm going to break it down real simply. It's about the next time. That's it. What am I doing right now to make sure that that customer wants to come back the next time they need what I sell? I want to make sure I give them that experience, because that's the only way they're coming back, ideally, for sure, again and again and again.
One of the things we talked about sort of setting the bar, and I wanted to kind of bring this up because a friend of mine asked me to ask you this as well. What's a customer service myth or imperative that you've heard that you'd like to bust open to get people to not think that way?
Oh, wow. Well, just what we were talking about, taking a look at your typical metrics.
Yeah.
They don't measure behavior. I know you were talking about my demo video, and I talk about, the best metric that you should be looking at is, does the customer come back? Not whether they were happy. I love it that they're happy, so we'll keep making them happy, but do they ever come back? Isn't that more important? So if you're not measuring your customer retention rates and your repeat business, and the difference between repeat loyal customers and just repeat because it's convenient customers, I think you're making mistakes. So that's one, I guess, if there's a myth to bust, it's the metrics myth. You can't manage what you don't measure, but make sure you're measuring the right things.
With so much influx with budgets, I mean, obviously the pandemic has shifted the way people look at marketing and sales and advertising and customer service and everything else within their business. But people that are fighting for customers, we're having a tough enough time fighting for those customers during good times. But they could come from different teams, and different teams could win those conversations. My question is, how should you go about fighting for your customers? Because we so often see things that are sacrificed in lieu of servicing our customers. You brought it up earlier, whether or not you pour more money into marketing or sales or advertising. But what's the advice you would give to a team internally as to fight for these changes in customer service and customer experience that we see needed so often today?
Right. Well, if you're fighting for them, there's already a problem.
Yeah.
Okay? So,
good point.
I think I'm not sure I've got this right, but I want to make sure I understand. I think the question you're asking me is, if I'm one of these people who are in the front line, I'm in the trenches, I'm dealing with customers, and I'm trying to get my leadership to give me the tools that I need, what's the best way to go about it? And the way to do it is with numbers, because this is what leaders really like. They like to look at numbers. Here we are back to metrics. So number one, if you can prove that giving me the right tool, investing in more people, investing in the right technology, whatever it is going to increase satisfaction scores, I'm listening. Number two, what does an increase in a satisfaction score mean? If I can look at NPS and I can move that by 10 or 15% or 5 points, however you want to measure it, what is that going to mean to my bottom line? What does it mean if I could retain more customers? There are some great stats. Unfortunately, there's nothing brand new out there, but the loyalty effect that was written back in the 90s by folks over at Bain & Company, Fred Reichheld and his team, they talked about a 5% increase in loyalty is the equivalent of X number of dollars, or an increase in an average business. And you look at that, you go, holy cow. Well, I think the reason we don't have the most recent stats and facts is because they're all the same. It proves it over and over again. So here I am. The point I want to make is you go to leadership with the numbers to back it up. And when you tell them we get our customers to come back, what does that repeat customer mean different than a one-time customer? Repeat customers spend more. I wish I could share with you the stats and facts the gentleman from Gallup shared with me today, but he said a person that is a repeat customer who's loyal to you is worth 23% more than a customer that's just neutral. That still may come back, but they have no emotion invested in you whatsoever. So I think that's a really crucial piece of it.
That's fair.
Coming to them with the numbers.
And you did a much better way of articulating the question than I did.
I hope that's the question you wanted to ask.
Yeah, it is. It is. So I'd like to ask you a question. Give me a couple of ways that we can amaze our customers today, whether it's B2B or B2C, either one.
Yep. So I told you I wanted to talk about convenience. And here's the opportunity.
Did I set this one up on the tee perfectly?
Yeah, it was perfect. Well, I was kind of hoping we get back to it because I said, I'm going to talk about that in a minute. So here we are. 6 convenience principles I identified. I wrote about this in a book that came out about 2 years ago titled The Convenience Revolution. And I was asked, why do I love writing about companies that I write about, talking about them? And I mean, I love Amazon. I know that's overused, Amazon and Zappos, owned by Amazon. But Nordstrom, the Ritz-Carlton, they're wonderful examples because we can all relate to them. But one of the reasons people love certain companies is because they're just easy to do business with. And when I started to look at all the different ways these companies were easy, and I looked at hundreds of companies. If you'd have seen my wall, I had these Post-it pads covering my wall with all these different companies and case studies and bullet points written real small on why they're convenient. And really, I brought it down to 6 convenience strategies or principles. And the first is in all 6, and that is they reduce friction. Just figure out ways to eliminate friction. Don't make people wait on hold for 10 minutes or an hour and a half. Give them that option. That's reducing friction. Number 2 is give a self-service solution. Is there a way that a customer can take advantage and take control of their own situation? And it's not just in customer service looking for answers to questions. It could be Amazon, great job. They've given you complete control over your shopping experience. Number 3 is use technology in the right way. By the way, you don't have to use all 6 of these. You can use one to distance yourself or completely disrupt your competitor. Some companies use 2 or 3, and companies like Amazon and many other rock stars out there are using all 6. Technology can drive a great experience. When I can go online and book my appointment with my doctor, my car dealership, so much easier than having to call and being put on hold because they're talking to somebody on the other side of the counter or whatever. You follow me. Technology. Number 4 is subscription. Almost any business can become a subscription model. Customers love it because things happen automatically. Companies love it because it's recurring income. Number 5 is the delivery idea. Can you take it to the customer? My car dealership, before COVID, when I bought my car, they brought it to me. I didn't go to the dealership. Every time I need service, they bring me a car, pick mine up, take it back. I don't go into the dealership unless I want to buy a car. Or today, they don't even tell you to come in. What kind of car do you like? Go online, pick out the color and everything. We'll bring it over to you, see what you think. Pretty cool. And then number 6 is access. Accessibility in the form of if you're a local business, it might be logistical, geographical access. Think about Walmart, which is big. I think they said 90% of the U.S. population lives within 10 minutes of a Walmart. That's logistically accessible. But you have hours of operation. Amazon's open 24/7. You can call customer support teams from companies that may not be open during the evenings, but you can still get their customer support team. They're available to you 24 hours a day. So those types of accessibility. So those 6 principles. You can be great in one and disrupt your competitor. It might take 2 or 3, or you might be able to use all 6. But that is how you differentiate yourself. That's how you distance yourself and disrupt the competitor and create fierce loyalty. Because if you're easier than they are, people won't leave you.
Fantastic. Well, just as a speaker as well, I'd love to hear your viewpoints before we go towards the close on how you're looking at the Zoom experience of speaking versus being on a stage. How much are you looking forward to being back?
Wow. So I love what I do, and I've been doing this on stage for many years. I do about 40 to 50 paid presentations every year now. I've done as many as 180 something in one year.
Gosh.
Yeah, my wife said, "You're never home. You're going to
Yeah.
come home, and we're not going to be home one day. Keep
Right.
that in
Right.
mind."
Yeah.
Okay. She scared me. So guess what? I then usually you say, I'm going to be a guy stuck in the 80s. Well, that meant 80 presentations a year. Still too many. Anyway, I've been doing online presentations for many years, but I only did about maybe 15 a year. Sometimes 2 or 3 a month, sometimes 1 a month. Now I'm doing 3 to 5 a week, every week. Do I enjoy it as much? I'm getting used to it, and I think that's what it takes. The muscles to stay focused are far different than if you're looking out at an audience, hearing the laughter, feeding off the energy. But I'll tell you, if this is how I have to spend the rest of my life, I kind of enjoy it too.
Yeah, no. It's one of those things, though. And as a speaker, I'm sure you appreciate this as well. As somebody who values the level of service we give to our own customers, I always worry: am I giving enough service to them? Because the delivery is just different. It's different
It's
from
so different.
seeing somebody in person and having a conversation afterwards with the team that asks questions.
Right. So I won't tell you the name of the speaker. I so feel bad for him because this is one of the most successful guys in the business. And he says, I'm not doing this Zoom thing. No way. I'm not touching it. I'm on stage or I'm not. You know what? I think he thought this thing was going to be over in 3 months. He's still not doing it, to my knowledge. And I think that is so short-sighted. You know what? You need to do it because not just for yourself to make a living, your clients need you.
Exactly.
You've got this information. If the only way they can get it is this way, and I've tried to do what I can to create a better experience. We use multiple cameras. I have a team that helps me with my video production to make sure that the client gets the best experience virtually. And I will tell you today, I've decided, and I've tried to convince my clients, they say, Shep, we want you to do a 40-minute speech. I go, can I make a suggestion? I'll do a shorter speech, but even better is no speech at all. Let's just figure out what I'm going to talk about anyway. And let's have you ask me questions to tee up the concepts. And then let's get off this. I'm going to talk to you for 3 minutes or 5 minutes on this idea and then move on. Let's drill down to how it applies to you. It's like a fireside chat. And I promise you, I can still be entertaining and engaging and make people laugh. I mean, you and I are talking good energy. You're smiling. I know this is an audio podcast, but you hear that we're having fun, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. So we can get that same energy through video and even audio. And I convince my clients often that the best route to go is the fireside chat. And by the way, it takes even more preparation to do that than it does to do my normal speech. Because I've got to learn more about your company, because I don't want you to ask me a question about your company or industry that I can't answer. That means I'm going to spend more time talking to you about what I need to know. I'm going to ask to speak to your customers. I may even talk to 2 or 3 of your executives or other stakeholders in the company, employees. And I just want to be so prepared. By the way, that's fun. I get to learn more than I've ever learned before about your business. And if that happens, I'm going to be more valuable to you. And you know what that might mean? More business down the road.
Absolutely.
But I do it because it's the right thing to do to begin with.
Right. And there's nothing wrong with forcing speakers to rethink that level of service and experience they bring to audiences as well. Make it more, again, it's making it more about them instead of us, which is what it should be.
One of the greatest speakers of all time. Old guy, passed away a number of years ago. God, I don't know how many speeches he did. They were the exact same speech. And his philosophy is, it was easier to get a new audience than it was to get a new speech.
Yeah, that's funny.
Frankly, I would consider that like being in prison, having to do the same presentation over and over and over again. I love my taxi cab driver story that I tell, but man, if I don't have to tell it, that's a good day.
Agreed. Well, Shep, I ask this of all my guests, and I must ask you, since you're on a shark's perspective, not sure if you have one, but what is your favorite kind of shark and why?
Well, you know what? I like the great white, mostly because he's great. I don't know why they call him the white shark. He's kind of the gray shark.
Yeah, no, wait, which one did you say?
I don't know. Here's actually, I don't know. I'm thinking great whites because they're the most famous ones. I don't know. The humpback. But you know what I love about the shark? Not all sharks, but I like the species of sharks that are forced to keep moving, because that's me. That's one of my favorite thoughts is I'm like a shark. And that's why you're going to see me keep moving. I'm always doing something. I'm trying to stay on the cutting edge. I'm always writing something new. I'm always learning something new, because like a shark, if I don't, it's over, at least for me.
Yeah. I used to say keep swimming all the time until Dory messed up my line and made it more famous in Nemo movies. So
What did Dory say?
she said, I got to keep swimming, just keep swimming. So that was her. That was Ellen DeGeneres
Ah,
in Finding Nemo. But Shep, it's that special time I show. Are you ready for the 5 most interesting, important questions that you're going to be asked?
I can't wait. I hope I can answer them.
You're in St. Louis. So if you had a ticket to see one of these in their prime day, Stan Musial or Albert Pujols?
Stan Musial.
Used to love the old Busch Stadium.
I mean,
New
I've
Busch
met
Stadium's
both of
nice,
them.
but
But you want to know what's cool about Stan Musial?
Yeah.
Real guy. Not that
Real
Albert
guy.
isn't. Albert's charitable. I mean, Albert's a wonderful man. Stan Musial plays harmonica, or did play. He just passed away a few years ago. Played harmonica. By the way, I got an Albert Pujols signed ball and a Stan Musial signed ball in my collection behind.
Fantastic. Yeah. All right. Number 2 for a not former magician, but magician, David Copperfield or David Blaine?
David Copperfield.
Agreed. One of the best shows I've seen multiple times in my life, and it's
I
shocking.
love David Blaine too. David, I'm sorry, David Blaine, if you're watching this, you're getting mad at me. I just, I like the big illusions. They're beautiful. They're sexy. They're romantic. And then I also love the close-up. But with David Blaine, I love his raw talent. And with Copperfield, I love his perfection and what he tries to do on stage. It's truly masterful.
All right, let's talk a little bit about service and experience. I'm going to get you to pick one on number 3, Disney or Amazon?
Who? Oh, man. I'm going to go with Amazon against my better. I know you're going to go with Disney, but I'm going to go with Amazon.
I haven't been to Disney in a very long time. I would say Amazon.
I've been to Disney theme parks more than 50 times. I love Disney.
Gosh.
But I have to look at what Amazon has done from the standpoint of innovation and the impact they've had on the world and the impact they've had on customers, forcing so many other companies to raise the bar because they've set the bar high, not just for the industry, but for the entire customer experience world.
Agreed. I'm starting to give a little bit of a nod, though, to Disney because their digital experience, especially now with Disney Plus, has actually been better than Amazon Prime. Prime sort of looked like it was going to take off, and then Netflix took over, and Amazon just delivered packages, and I'm completely okay with that. But Disney Plus is pretty decent.
Yeah, but what you don't realize is much in the world of sales as Amazon, so much of their profit does not come from what you and I know. It comes from their cloud and companies using their cloud service.
Cloud computing, absolutely.
I mean, their innovation and their ability to widen. I mean, Disney went from a theme park to multiple theme parks to resorts, to the TV, all that. They also widened the net, if you will. But Amazon, wow, I just don't know. Not only that, Jeff Bezos is like the richest guy in the world, right? He's got to be cool.
He's doing okay. All right, number 4, you have a famous taxi cab story in your presentations.
Yes.
Your choice today, since you were you also mentioned New York, taxi or an Uber or Lyft. Pick either one of those.
Oh my gosh. It's I want to go with the guy that's the driver that's most friendly and hassle-free. So I'm going to go, I mean, to me, Uber and Lyft are practically the same.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go with the digital experience because and I use this example in my book. Back in the day when I live in an urban area now, but I was in the suburbs. If I needed a taxi, I had to call. But if I had an Uber, I just look at the app. I know how far away they are. I got to go with the technology. Sorry, taxi cab drivers.
Yeah, no kidding. Number 5, and the most important question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Definitely biscuits. I'm a biscuit guy. You can put honey on them. You can put jelly on them. You can put gravy on them. And you can put chicken on them.
Yeah, true.
It tastes good.
Chick-fil-A. So, Shep, where can people find out more about you, look for your books, keep up with what you're doing in thought leadership and more?
Sure, just go to hyken.com, HYKEN.com. And hey, while you're there, this is a cool thing. I created this report called the ACA Achieving Customer Amazement Report. It's a survey of over 1,000 customers, and we did it with Qualtrics. They were great to work with. And that is available at no charge. You can download it. It's free, and it's got tons of stats and facts to support what we talked about today.
I'll link it from my website as well so they can get to it. So, Shep, thank you again for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So there was my conversation with Shep Hyken, a customer service and experience expert, the Chief Amazement Officer of Shepard Presentations, a New York Times and Wall Street Journal bestselling author, and member of the National Speakers Association Hall of Fame. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with him. First, your experience is not competing with just your competitors. I mentioned this earlier just in a comparison of podcasts. When I try to grab somebody's ear time, I'm not just creating a podcast to compete with other podcasts focused in marketing and business. I'm also trying to compete with the Joe Rogan Experience and true crime dramas and things like that to really stand out. Great brands are not just raising the level of expectation for their brand, they're raising it across all businesses today. Everyone's comparing you to Disney or Amazon. Fair or not, that's where the expectations are. As Shep said, and I quote, customers don't compare you to a direct competitor anymore. They compare you to the best service you've ever had. It doesn't matter if you're doing a podcast, creating an app, having something delivered, etc. Just as an example, remember that if you're a local business, then people aren't comparing you to other local businesses only with a poor or favorable reputation. They're wanting the same kind of experience and service and convenience that other, much larger brands are known to deliver. It may feel unfair, but it's the world we're in today. So you've got to step it up to deliver the unique kind of service that your business and brand can deliver. Second, we hear about smart brands investing in marketing when times are low, not cutting back. The same applies, but even more so with experience. The brands who are doing it well properly invest and keep spending where they need to be spending. As Shep said with a hotel example, in good times or bad, a dirty room is a dirty room. You should already know this, but if you're going to cut costs, especially when it's understandable during times like these, just don't cut where customers will see it or where they'll experience it. Third, I'm paraphrasing, but as he said with brands, the experience, the emotion that you're wanting and needing to create with customers, then, and I'll quote, I want to be relevant to them when there's no need to be relevant to them. That's a great quote, and that's not easy for many brands to do. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you again for the privilege of your time. Let's work on some better service and experience for your customers so we don't have to focus only on the churn and the burn. And join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.